The webinar that we're going to be talking is Omnichannel Marketing Strategies for the Hispanic Market. Today is Tuesday, November 17, 2020. We're going to proceed and start. Like I say, my name is Gus Calabro, and I would like to thank every one of the panelists who are going to be joining us. And first, and without any ado, I would like to tell you who we are in just one quick minute and show you a video. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching the video. I'm going to go ahead and do, just to make sure so everybody's here, I'm going to do a quick poll, and I would like to share that with all of you, and just to know a little bit more about our attendees. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll. Everyone who is an attendee, please, if you can take a look at it. So here's the poll. What part of the industry are you? Are you familiar with omnichannel marketing? So if everyone out there can start replying, I'm going to give you a minute or so, less than a minute, to answer those questions. Again, I wanted to thank, at the moment, we have a total of over 300 and some registrants, and we have 117 attendees right now. So we're getting close to 100% of the voting, so let's see. People are still voting, so I'm going to share at the end this screen with you. Okay, so here is, I'm going to share the results. So we have an 8% of retailers, manufacturers, produce, media agencies, and distributors. So here's a great one. Are you familiar with omni-channel marketing? We have 48%, and I heard of it, 32, and not at all 20%. So we're going to share all this information with you. By the way, there's going to be another poll, and we're going to continue with the, I would like to take this opportunity to tell all the panelists that when you're not speaking, to please stop your video, and also to go ahead and make sure you have your microphone open. So okay. I would like to introduce now to Mr. Dan Calhoun. Dan Calhoun is the president and CEO of La Tortilleria. And first I would like to introduce all the speakers so the attendees can see who's going to be on this webinar. Next, Ken Langone, Chairman, President, and CEO of InvestMed Associates, co-founder of Home Depot. Mr. Dan Calhoun, President and CEO of La Tortilleria. Harry Stagnito, President of Stagnito Retail Marketing. Steve French, who is the Senior Vice President of the Natural Marketing Institute. Larissa Gottschlick, Vice President of Market Research of Research America, Inc. Yvonne Kinzer, she's the Head of Digital Marketing and E-Commerce from Avocados from Mexico. Jenny George, the partner of Gala Foods Supermarkets. And Anita Grace, Hispanic Marketing and Media Specialist for Grace Multicultural and Abasto Media. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Dan Calhoun to all of you. Dan Calhoun is the President and CEO of La Tortilleria. As the President and CEO of La Tortilleria, Dan Calhoun is a seasoned food and beverage professional with over 18 years of experience in the Hispanic retail industry. So without further ado, here is Dan Cahoon.
Well, Ken, you can go ahead and turn your screen on, and Harry, you can too. But I just want to say right out of the gate how proud I am of the Abasto team, Gus, Anita, all the team. The quality of what Abasto is doing is far beyond anything that I could have imagined back in 2008 when we started this. And so I've said this a lot, but I'm just so pleasantly surprised and amazed at the work that's doing. And I'm greatly honored to have all of you guys on this call with us. It's great. And I know that, the country's going through a lot. We've been through a lot. Ken's going to talk a little bit about that. But it's important for us in this industry to strive to make this country and this world a better place. And I'm very honored to be in this with you. And, we're all kind of figuring out a lot about what's going on. But one of the things that's true in my life is that God's blessing has been very prominent. And I've met a lot of great people along the way and very few not so good people. And even before I met Ken, I met Harry Stagnito. I'll tell you that a little bit about that here in a second. But I met Ken really almost through a last minute deal. And he has a friend named Tommy Teague, who's a very dear friend of mine. And Tommy runs a trucking company. And he introduced me to Ken about, almost a year and a half ago. And we've been in business a little over a year. And Ken has become a very dear friend of mine. And that's not something that I would have ever imagined would happen. Not because I've always longed to know Ken Langone, but people of Ken's caliber and character don't come along very often. And so we are incredibly honored to be in business with him. And I want to tell you, he is delighted to be in business with us and loves what Abasto is doing. And so I just want to give Ken some time I told him he could talk a little bit about the COVID and politics and how it's going to affect our economy. And then you guys can ask him questions. He's an amazing guy. I don't need to go into all that, but Ken, thank you for being here, for your time. And you
Dan,
can say what you like to say.
well, thank you, first of all, for having me and including me. Let me begin by saying that Tom Teague and I are thrilled, and my son Bruce, of course, and Tom's family, we're all thrilled to be part of this wonderful company that you and your brother started a little more than 12 years ago. We have an unusual way of looking at investments. It's 100% focused on the people. We'd like to see businesses that make sense and have unique features to them. But at the end of the day, what really determines success of a business, in my opinion, over 60 years of investing, is the quality of the people and their values. And the thing that attracted Tommy and me to you, Dan, your brothers and your company and all the wonderful people you have in it, the thing that attracted me most of all was your commitment to a culture that celebrated the success of everybody. I don't view myself as an owner as much as I view myself as a partner. And a partner, not just with the Calhouns and the senior people, but a partner with the truck drivers, a partner with the people that work in the warehouse. Because we believe that if they have a problem, we have a problem. So to begin with, Dan, I want you to know we're very enthusiastic, and I didn't mention Carlos Evans, who really was very vital in this thing happening. I can't tell you what a great thrill it is for us to be in business with all of you vendors, suppliers, customers. We're all in this together. One succeeds, we all succeed. And I think that ought to be our mantra. That ought to be the measure by which we determine whether or not we're successful. That it should be a party for everybody and a party that's inclusive. Now, let me explain a little bit to you about my feeling on the pandemic. And I have some unusual knowledge. I'm chairman of a major medical center up here in New York. And I've spent a lot of time these last almost 9 months now being involved. Early on, I was involved in getting things like masks and personal protective equipment and ventilators. And it was a horrible nightmare here in New York in March and April we were being swamped. The hospitals were being inundated with cases of COVID that we literally couldn't handle. And in fact, all the hospitals had to stop everything they were doing except dealing with patients who had COVID-19. We've come a long way. Number one, we've learned how to treat the patient better and more effectively. So that's besides the therapy that might be coming, or besides the vaccine. It's how we as healthcare providers help our patients struggle through. And I'm happy to tell you that the numbers in New York today are much, much lower, and in fact are entirely manageable. We're not experiencing what we're reading about in other parts of the country. We were there 8 months ago, but right now, the 3 hospitals that are part of our complex, NYU, Brooklyn, Long Island, and Manhattan, we have a total this morning as of 71 patients in 3 hospitals in ICU. And the average length of stay is 4.2 days, which means that they're recovering quicker. And I think that's testimony to the fact that we're learning how to deal with this crisis more effectively. The vaccine. I have been assured, and by people that I respect, last June and July, that we were well on our way to a vaccine. And by the way, we're there. We're there. We now have vaccines. And I'm very optimistic that we're going to have an enormous number of doses available for all Americans and indeed for the world. We have to be careful that we let the world understand that whatever we develop here or elsewhere in other parts of the world, that we're going to share it and do it for the betterment of mankind without regard to age or sex or wealth or no wealth. We're all human beings and we're all worthy of being protected. And I think we're going to show that that's how we're going to operate. Politically, I feel bad that so much of what's happened has been politicized. The vaccine, if you believe in the vaccine, you're a Republican. If you don't believe in the vaccine, you're a Democrat. If you wear a mask, you're a Democrat. If you don't wear a mask, you're a Republican. I am a deep, deep-seated Republican, and I have a mask on all the time. Why? I don't want to get sick. This disease is entirely manageable. Wear a mask. Stay 6 feet apart. Wash your hands. Stay outside as much as you can, but keep the 6-foot distance. You do all these things, trust me, the percentage drops dramatically. Now, let me give you a little bit of perspective. We have roughly 11 million patients today, 11 million people in America that have gotten the disease. That's barely 3% of our population. We are proving that we're able to deal with the disease more effectively. The death rate is dropping dramatically from what it was back in the spring, and it will continue to drop. We have a therapy. We have therapeutics. In other words, not something that'll prevent you from getting the disease, but more importantly, if you get it, of how to deal with it. So for example, Eli Lilly and Company has a therapeutic that in the early stages, you have to get the disease. In the early stages of the disease, if you're administered this medication, the likelihood is you won't have to go to a hospital and you're going to recover a lot quicker. There are all kinds of reasons for all of us to be optimistic about the opportunities and the future. But I'm pleading with everybody on this call and everywhere I go, be conservative, wear a mask, keep your distance, wash your hands as much as you can, stay outside as often as you can, don't get too close to people. These are all simple things that if you adhere to them, the chances are very, very, very low that you'll get the disease. Now, let me tell you about why we're excited about our investment in La Tortilleria. First and foremost, we met the Calhoun brothers, and I was very impressed with their mindset about the company being a company of all the people that are in it, and that each and every person, whether they work in the warehouse or the office or drive a truck or they're a retailer that's a customer, whatever it is, everybody has a chance to participate and help in the success of this company. That was the foundation of the Home Depot when we started the Home Depot 42 years ago. So what I'm saying is, I am very optimistic on the single most significant factor in our decision, which is all the people, all of you. I had the good fortune to be at this meeting last year in person, and I got a chance to meet with a lot of vendors, a lot of customers, and I can only tell you, every single one I met only reinforced my belief on what a smart thing we've done by investing in this company. The other thing I want to tell you is this. We're long-term investors. We love to own stocks forever. It's consistent with everything in my life. I'm married to my wife. It'll be 65 years next September. My sons and I are all very close, and they're anywhere from 59 and a half down to 55. My typical investment average length of time is over 40 years. So for example, I've been an investor in Eli Lilly for 42 years. I've been an investor of Home Depot for 42 years. I've been an investor in Yum Brands for 20. I was on their board for many years. And as a result of when I went on the board, I bought stock, and I still own the stock, and I'm excited about it. My friendships go back a long time. My son is the same way. We believe in loyalty, and we celebrate loyalty, and we encourage loyalty. One hurts, everybody hurts. One succeeds, everybody succeeds. That's what we're all about. We're very excited. I'll give you one short story. Back in the spring, when the government was giving out all this money, Dan called me up to tell me they were thinking about, they'd gotten a call from our bankers that the bankers were encouraging us to put in for some of this money. And I said, well, Dan, you're running the company and you have to decide. And the next day, Dan called me back and said, I've thought of this and this is not us. And I said, Dan, thank God, because that's not us either. I'm thrilled you're not going to take the money. We didn't need it, thank God, and we didn't take it. And that's what this should be all about. It should be all about each other. It should all be all about helping each other, caring for each other, doing for each other, celebrating with each other. And when one of us is down, we're all down. And when we're all up, we're all up. So Dan, that's pretty much my pitch. It's from my heart. I hope you hear it from my heart. I believe it. I've been blessed throughout my life with all these wonderful relationships. I neglected to mention my assistant, Pam Goldman. She's with me 30 years. My driver, Alvaro, is with me 32 years. The wonderful couple we have here on Long Island at our home out here now, they're with us 30 years. We love long-term relationships. And we love the fact that if we all feel, one feels good, we all feel good. And if one of us is hurting, we're all hurting. So Dan, I'd be happy to take some questions if that's part of what you'd like me to do, and go from there.
Well,
Gus?
so Ken, speak to what you see the prognosis for post-COVID, just in the economy, and then as it relates to the new administration, how do you see those things coming together to affect this industry?
Okay, I was an ardent supporter, Republican supporter of Donald Trump. Assuming Donald Trump doesn't win the election, now who knows what's going on now, but let's assume he doesn't win the election. I'm going to use every single bit of energy in my body to make sure I do everything personally as a citizen, as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, as a philanthropist. I'm going to do everything I can to help Joe Biden be the most successful president we've ever had in the history of the country, ever. Why? Because if he is, we all win together. We all succeed. And how do I feel? I feel America is above all this partisanship. Yeah, we're partisan around elections, but I think when push gets to shove, we prove one for all and all for one. So I'm very optimistic on the future. I'm very excited. I'm fully invested. I can't tell you how enthusiastic I am about like La Tortilleria. I can't wait to get up in the morning, Dan, to have a look at the dashboard because I'm excited about what you're doing. I'm excited about the market you're addressing. Now, let me say something about that market. I have great admiration for Latinos. They're spiritual, they're very family-oriented, and they have a wonderful, wonderful work ethic, fabulous work ethic. And these things all matter. And to be in a business that caters specifically to that market thrills me to death. So, Dan, I'm an optimist. I feel very good about America. I'm going to do everything in my power that I can to help Biden leave office when he leaves office, whatever that is. And he can look back and say, I'm the best president America ever had. Because if he is, we all win. All of us, every one of us.
How do you see the Hispanic market growing?
Like a weed, like a weed. I think it's one of the most exciting opportunities in America. And I go back to what I said. I have enormous admiration for the Spaniards, the Latinos, however you define what you are, for the reasons I said. Your faith, your work ethic, your commitment to family. It's a wonderful thing to see. And these are all things America desperately needs. And let me say one more thing. Let's make sure that everybody who wants to come to America, that wants to be part of the fabric of America, that wants to contribute to America, let's make sure we have welcoming and open arms for each and every one of them and let them know, welcome to America. We love you, we want you, and we need you. We need you. America was built on immigrants. My grandparents came from America, came to America from Italy a little more than 100 years ago. I'm the child of immigrants, of grandchild of immigrants. All of us are from someplace else. That's the genius of America. We're a melting pot. And God bless us Latinos. As I said, I don't mean to offend anybody. If I use Espanol or Latino, what I mean is, whatever you are, welcome to America. And however I can help you be successful in America, I know I speak for the Calhoun brothers. I know I speak for our company. We're in this together. Let's win together. Let's help each other together.
Ken, Gus wants to ask you a few questions that people
Sure.
have sent him.
Go ahead, Gus.
Thank you, Ken. First, I'm going to say something. I have a very interesting message, and it goes back to you were talking about. Here, I have a message for Liliana Milton. She is in California at UCLA, and they're bringing the vaccine to the third stage, and she is part of the study. So congratulations, Liliana. We are proud of your work.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I have a question from Miguel de la Torre for Mr. Langone. Is this your first major investment in the Hispanic food and beverage industry?
Yes. Well, I take that back. I was on the board of Yum Brands for many years, and Yum's most successful brand is Taco Bell. And of course, you know, everybody loves Taco Bell products. So, but it's a takeoff from fundamentally a Latino product and a Latino menu.
Okay.
So it's been a very, very successful investment for me. I went on the board in 1997, and I remained on the board until 2013, 2014. And I was honored to be asked to serve on that board. And I'm thrilled that I was on that board. And all I can tell you is I have a fervent regard for all people of all ethnicities, Latinos too, but everybody. We're the melting pot.
Thank you. If you share a couple of more minutes with us, Ken, I have a
Sure.
couple of more questions. I have
Go ahead.
a question from Gabriela Perez. She's asking, what advice can you give to the companies that are afraid to make changes or investments right now because of COVID-19?
Don't be afraid. The world belongs to risk takers. Take a risk, measure the risk, and be sure that you can withstand, if what you're doing doesn't work, that you're going to live to fight another day. So don't be reckless, don't be crazy. But the world does belong to risk takers. And I urge you, do it sensibly, do it with a sound footing, but do it with sincerity and passion, that you want to deliver something to somebody that they need, that they want, and that when you deliver it to them the way you do it, they're going to be thrilled and want to come back and do more with you. That's the key. The key is to help people accomplish whatever human wants they have, whatever they are. And that's your opportunity. So the pandemic will pass. It will pass. I have no doubt a year from today, we're going to be so far beyond the pandemic, people aren't going to believe it's the same country or the same world. But I'm convinced of that. I'm absolutely convinced.
I have a question here that I must ask you because, first, he's one of the advertisers here in Abasto, so I had to ask.
Right.
So this question is from Jorge Garcia. He is the CEO of Chapala USA. It's a hot sauce from Mexico.
Right.
And his question is, how do you see the impact on the free trade agreement between Mexico and USA with the end of this administration and the start of the new one? Well, we don't know.
I'm not smart. I am thrilled that we now have an agreement in place that replaces NAFTA. Not that I was opposed to NAFTA, but I am thrilled that we have an agreement that apparently all three countries, Mexico, Canada, the United States, all agree they can live with it and do well with it. So, and there's smarter people than me that are making that call. I think free trade depends on fairness. I was not an authority on NAFTA, and I'm not an authority on the current agreement with Canada and Mexico. But from a distance, it seems to me that everybody feels that all three countries can live with the deal we have now. And for the most part, people in America feel like it's a fairer deal. I believe that great trade depends on balance and fairness. And as of right this minute, the little bit I know about the current agreement, I think we've achieved that, both those goals. And if we have, then it's win-win-win. All countries win. And that's what it should be all about. Everybody coming away from the table well-fed, everybody coming away from the table say, boy, I'm glad I'm in that deal. And I think that's where we are.
I have a lot of more questions, Ken, and I don't want to take, we don't want to.
Go ahead, I got some time.
But okay. This is a question that it really, I feel like you probably would like to know, considering that any reason why the distribution part was more appealing than the manufacturing or retailing part when it came to your group's investment decision?
Well, we didn't make it as if we had choices.
Okay.
The one investment we were presented with was La Tortilleria. But again, Home Depot is a retail, so I'm certainly enthusiastic about retail. Yum Brands is a retail. Again, manufacturing, I would certainly, depending upon the product and more importantly, back again to the people. Back again, if you showed me a food manufacturing company, I'm involved in a company right now called Simply Good Foods. It's a line of health bars, the Atkins Diet health bars.
Right.
And I have an investment in that company. And I'm very excited because the people that run it, I'm very impressed with. Again, their values, their knowledge, and their passion and enthusiasm for what they're doing. Just like all of you in La Tortilleria. The thing I came away with last year after I came to that food fair was the passion all of you had and the excitement that was in your bodies and the feeling you had that you want, not only you were on a winning team, but you wanted to do your share for a winning team. So my investment style is wide open, but I start with the people and I end with the people.
Finally, I want to share with you, we have more questions, but I just want to share with you a comment from Helen Martinez. Thank you for your honesty, Mr. Langon, about coming together in unity to make America with a new Biden presidency toward progress and to achieve goals for a better health and toward successful and bright future that we can look forward with a positive life for today and the future. So that's just a comment, and I wanted to share with you.
Well,
people were very active listening to you. So thank you on my part. I'm sure Dan has a couple of words. So.
Well,
Terry,
go ahead, Dan.
Harry, would you put would you get on the screen, Harry, and unmute yourself?
Oh,
All right.
yeah.
So Ken, you haven't
Yes.
had the opportunity to meet Harry Stagnito, but not all of y'all know our story, but back in 1986, well, early 80s, my brother and I, when we moved back from Mexico, we went to seminary. And when we got out of seminary, we didn't really have any real world skills. And so we started cutting grass. And early in that career, Harry and his family were publishing a magazine. I don't know, Harry, was it called Lawn and Landscape or something like that? But it was a predecessor to the internet in that it was big pages, and it would tell you everywhere you could go to buy blades and belts and wheels and spindles. And I was reading Harry's magazines back in the mid 80s. And actually, Abasto was kind of started on the idea of what Harry had kind of done, because Harry's magazine would talk to just blue collar people like us to kind of give us explanations on how to do our job better and how to find resources. And that was really one of the founding ideas behind Abastos, that we kind of realized that all these 20-some thousand small entrepreneurs had no way to engage each other. And so, Ken, I just want you to know that Harry is a lot like you in that he's had a lot of success. He's done a lot of he's helped a lot of people. And he's one of these guys that just keeps on. So Harry could probably be smoking a cigar by the lake, but he is sticking his oar back in the water, and he works hard.
God bless him.
And so, Harry, it's a pleasure for me to introduce you to Ken if you've not met him before. But you two guys are amazing in that after as much success as y'all have achieved, you're still role models for entrepreneurism and for hard work and integrity. And so, Ken, I just wanted you to hear that. I thought it's a cool little story. And
Well,
I know you've got to go to your other appointment, but
Well, I want
thanks for being with you.
Harry, I look forward to
Dan,
meeting you in
can-
person.
Can I just interject 1 second?
Go ahead.
I'm
Sure.
a second generation Italian American, Ken. And I understand what Dan was just talking about hard work and immigration. And as Dan and I will follow up in a moment. But the amazing thing is that I decided, in high school to take a language which was, of course, imperative. And I took Spanish because it was as close to the Italian as I could possibly get.
Right.
And it's amazing that over the years, my career then moved into, in the early 1980s, into publishing a magazine called Alimentos Procesados. And I had a full Latin American staff. And I traveled internationally for the publication. And to this day, I've published 100 different magazines and conferences and events over the last 50 years. That the most interesting single vertical segment of my career has been the Hispanic community, based upon the personalities, as you pointed out earlier, the work ethic, the longevity of how these people, family units. I mean, it's just everything that anybody could aspire to. So I just want to make that comment.
Well, thank you very much. And let me leave by making this to all of you. We live in a wonderful country. It's a great country. We're all part of it. We all rise together, or we all sink together. I can't tell you how grateful I am to have been born in this great country. And more importantly, I can't tell you how thrilled I am that we have open arms for everybody who wants to come here and who wants to live the American dream and be part of the American dream. So Dan, Gus, Harry, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be part of this great company and what you're all doing. And more importantly, any way ever I could ever help any of you, I'd love to hear from you. So God bless all of you. God bless America. God bless the Latinos. God bless every ethnic group that God has ever created, whatever they are, wherever they are. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for having me. I hope I did some good today. And I just want you to know I'm blessed to be part of this wonderful company that you and your brothers have created, and that you staff with all these wonderful partners, all partners. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a great day.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Ken. Thank you for your time. And I'll
Bye-bye.
make sure I have the answer sent to you by the end of the
Okay.
webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. So
Go ahead, Gus, take it away.
thank you. So I'm going to go ahead right now and give this special welcome to Mr. Harry Stagnito, who I would like to say a couple of words about Harry. Harry Stagnito is the president of CEO of Stagnito Retail Marketing. And during his 45-year management career in the food and beverage, trade media, and information services, Harry has developed a panoramic vision and deep insight in the food processing, CPG, and retail industry segments. With the sale of Stagnito Business Information, he created Stagnito Retail Marketing, which provides target, integrated marketing and technology communication services to the food industry. He has managed more information resources in more vertical categories than any individual during that time. He launched more than 100 magazines, including Progressive Grocer, Convenience Store News, Beverage Industry, and the Dairy Field. He also published 2 Hispanic magazines, such Alimentos Procesados and Industria Alimenticia. He also managed the Hispanic 360 conference, and now we are so proud to establish this partnership with Harry. So thank you very much, Harry, and thank you then for doing this segment. It's going to be really quick for all of our participants. Harry, myself, and Dan Cajun we're going to be talking about this new partnership. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Gus. I'll accelerate this. As I pointed out, I've had a love affair with the Hispanic community my entire career. After having developed those properties, those vertical properties, Alimentos Procesados and Industria Alimenticia, we were fortunate enough when I acquired the food group, as you pointed out, Progressive Grocer, Convenience Store News, and so forth, many, many years ago. We also inherited the Hispanic 360 conference, which turned out to be a delightful annual meeting. We would have approximately 750 people, and I hope many of you attended those conferences over the years. I was back probably somewhere in the mid 2014, maybe even earlier than that, 2012, 13, when I met Gus. I met Dan at that time, who was working very closely with Hispanic 360 and got a lot of information about his background. Kept that in check over the years as we grew that particular conference, as we put more products out into the Hispanic community. And when I developed Stagnito Retail Marketing about a year ago, I contacted Gus and Dan and said, I'm looking for this new approach to marketing, which is going to be collaborative. We're going to find more and more of this. It was happening before the pandemic, and it will continue to accelerate afterwards. Companies are now picking up partnerships, collaboration partners, consortiums. So if I am a research company, as you'll be talking to NMI in a few minutes, I've known NMI for at least 10 to 12 years, and they're an excellent, exceptional research firm. And so I said, I don't have a research capability any longer. We had one in our old company, that's gone. But I think research is pivotal. It's an umbrella for business moving forward. How do we develop these kinds of relationships so that we can take research and develop that into data and develop that into content, into emerging trends, and finally products where people can take strategic thinking, develop those execution programs, and have products to go to market to make it all happen. And so I contacted again Abasto, and I said, I would like to work with you folks because you are an exceptionally good part of the industry. You own the Hispanic content-driven market, exceptionally good products. Why don't we work together in a combination, as I said, with research, potentially with NMI, also talking about what we're offering. And then we have the end of that product, which is we'll talk about later on which is the specifics about the products and processes that we can use to combine to make all of these strategic plans come to life. And so that's how it came about. That's what we decided to develop. And what I was impressed by, very, very briefly, was the decades of communications experience that we brought together with Abasto. The deep knowledge of the business and the nuances of the actual Hispanic communications industry. The extensive research that could be developed and brought through by, again, a third-party source, NMI. Finally, last couple are extensive reach of key decision makers in the industry. And possibly most critically is the long-term relationships that have been built up. Because you really can't, I shouldn't say can't, it's difficult to introduce new products unless someone knows who you are, what you're doing, what you're developing, what you're providing, what the return on that is, and there's a trust factor that's involved. So that's basically how it came about that we started talking about what can we go to market with. And since then, we said, well, let's start with something which is really critical. And I'm going to give the attribution of this to Steve French, who will be on the call shortly. But when I say, what do you think the single most important change in the industry is today in the area of research or communications? He said, omnichannel marketing. I started thinking about it, started doing research on it, talking to all my friends, contacts, allies, and so forth. I talked to Gus and to Anita, and we said, you know, that's perfect for where we want to go. And so that's why and how we joined forces with an outstanding firm in terms of Abasto, and that's where we're going to be going for the rest of this webinar, following up after we finish this segment.
Thank you so much, Harry. Would you like to add something to that, Dan?
Well, I think that there's always an opportunity. I mean, you can kind of hear it in what Ken was saying, but crisis and stress provide opportunity for those who are looking for it. And, you know, I know that Harry had this idea long before COVID hit, but there's just so much common sense in what Harry is doing. And it's made even more urgent and important by this pandemic. And so I think that what I like about all the people that we've got gathered here is that not that we're just opportunists, as if we're going to take advantage of people when they're down, but you know, it really is an opportunity to serve people in a greater way, a more robust way, and provide what everybody's looking for, which is you know, a better return on your investment. And you know, I think the bottom line best business model is find out what your customer wants and give it to them. That's kind of it. And I think Harry is really working hard to do that. And you know, I think there's a lot of learning we have to do, but it's just very exciting to see these new ideas coming into play and just understanding how we can help each other. So I'm beyond delighted to be in this and to see where it goes.
Thank you.
This is great.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you, Harry. As the executive director of Abasto, I want to thank Harry and Dan, and I would like to say that I'm so thrilled about doing this partnership with a person who has so much knowledge of the industry as Harry. If you can just kind of, we go in detail, can you just say in a few words, what is Omnichannel, Harry? And that way you can give the torch to Steve French.
Okay, I will give it very brief because
I know,
you're going to see in Steve's and Larissa's presentation details concerning what omnichannel is. Essentially, the difference between omnichannel and multi-channel is that it's turned itself upside down. Historically, CPG companies would develop multi-channel approaches, which would basically be saying, okay, how are we going to market a specific area such as advertising in magazines? Or how are we going to handle that in terms of deep blast in terms of some form of email or how do we handle an event? It was by that specific approach. Also, how do we just sell to in-store? Or how do we only go to e-commerce? That was basically what we called multi-channel. Now, omnichannel takes all these elements and works from the shopper back and takes these various products and seamlessly puts them together in a single organized, if you will, all-encompassing marketing communications program, utilizing all the different areas from research right on through to strategic planning, right on through the execution of the program in combination with whomever the customers are. But again, that's just the broad base of omni-channel marketing. But at this point in time, I will be turning this over to Steve and to Larissa. Steve French and I have known each other for many years. We have worked together for many years. In the past, when he and the family of the Mondos owned, at that point, NMI, we did some co-venturing. And then, of course, most recently with Research America, which Larissa is responsible for in the marketing in that area. We are now going in much more in depth in terms of the marketplace. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Steve French and I hope I don't mess this one up, Larissa Gotzlich.
That works.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
and welcome, Steve and Larissa. I appreciate your time. I want to just remind everyone of the attendees to please stay put. At the end, we'll have the participation to win an iPad, a new iPad. So please stick around, and we'll continue with Steve. Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Larissa, for being here. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Harry. I'm going to let Larissa lead this off, and then I'll jump back in, and Larissa will wrap it up. So it's a good tag team here.
Sounds good. Can you please pull up the PowerPoint? So as they mentioned, I am part of Research America. I'm a vice president, and I lead all of the Research America multicultural research field, working with both B2B and B2C organizations and help them understand through research how to best target the Hispanic consumers and customers. And Research America recently have partnered with the Natural Market Institute, and now we are one organization helping the organizations not only with the research part, but also looking at health and wellness, sustainability, and other areas, and expanded our reach. Next. Okay, so before we talk about the evolution from multi-channel to omni-channel, we would like to take a moment to step back and talk about how the consumer landscape is changing. So in the past, the path to purchase was linear. So we went from going to identifying the need, like I need this product, to consideration, what I'm gonna buy, where I'm gonna buy, when I'm gonna buy, prior to the visit to the store and in-store. Then we went to the conversion phase, which is the purchase itself. And after that, we went through the evaluation phase, which means how do I feel about this product? How do I feel about this service? Was that a good purchase? Was that a good subscription? Yes or no? Well, this linear and traditional path to purchase has evolved significantly over the past decade. Consumers have undergone a fundamental transformation in buying behavior, and that's driven by multiple factors. For example, the overwhelming number of product choices. So before you probably would have 5 to 10 brands. Now you can, for the same product, you can see like 20 to 50 different brands offering the same product. The explosion of digital media, the higher levels of buying sophistication, the increased pressure on time, financial resources, and the proliferation of alternative distribution channels. So before we were talking just about a brick and mortar. Now we have online, we have delivery, we have many different ways from which a customer or consumer can buy a product or subscribe to a service. And although this transformation hasn't altered the fact that consumers will go through the same stages of the path to purchase, the path to purchase itself is no longer linear. Next. So consumers have moved through and back and forth between the stages, influenced by countless of both offline and online factors at every stage. This is no longer a one-way conversation where the brand message is pushed to the consumer. Today, nearly 2/3 of the consideration phase touchpoints involve consumer-initiated activities, such as internet reviews, word of mouth, recommendations, and interactions both in-store and online. And the most important thing to keep in mind is that people shop in unique and varied ways, even within the same category or shopping for the same product. In fact, those journeys can differ considerably. So one journey for the same product can take months, going back and forth from considering the product, going to store, going online, then take a step back and really reevaluating whether they need that product or not, and then going back online, looking at ads, so on and so forth, or it can be a very, very quick path to purchase. Like, I need this product, I'm gonna go online, I'm gonna click a few clicks, buy the product, it's gonna be shipped to my house, or I'm just gonna go and run to a store and pick up the item that I need and come back home. And for a lot of people, that journey doesn't end just at the purchase itself or at the evaluation, because that might trigger other paths to purchase, other journeys that they were not expecting initially. So what does that mean for us? Going forward, we need to realign our efforts with the reality of a more complex consumer decision-making process. So our traditional view of the world, or at least the typical shopping experience, has changed and will continue to change and evolve in the next years to come. So what does that mean for us? I will let Steve take the lead and talk about Omnichannel and how that has changed as the path to purchase has changed for the consumers.
Thanks, Larissa. If you go to the next slide, and basically what this whole notion of omnichannel means to us, and if you could click that, that would be great. There's some animation here. As Larissa said, in the good old days, we went to the store. It was a brick and mortar situation. At least in 99.9% of the time. I do remember getting milk and things delivered at home, but maybe we've come full circle. If you click a couple more times, you'll see we've moved from traditional onto the next phase, which is e-commerce. As we've seen tremendous growth, obviously, for the past decade. And just in the past 6 months, I'm sure a lot of people are aware that we've seen a 5-year acceleration in e-commerce due to COVID. And that has definitely become part of consumers' lives. If you click a couple more times, you'll see that e-commerce has, along with the traditional brick and mortar, formed this whole notion of multi-channel. The issue or the problem here is that a lot of the touch points, a lot of the things that Larissa had mentioned are disconnected. So if we're going to a physical store, there's one set of marketing touch points from either a retailer or a brand or other different entities. If we're shopping online, there's different methods and so on. But if you click a couple more times, what you end up with is this notion of omnichannel, which is simple to explain but complicated at the same time. So it's best described as an integrated, seamless experience, regardless of whether you're talking about traditional brick and mortar, e-commerce, and the various ways that they interact with each other, because you can obviously place and let's just talk about grocery shopping, just to keep it simple. It's obviously relevant across many industries, but within the world of grocery, you can obviously place an order online and go pick it up at the store. You can place an order online, you can have it delivered, or you can go to the store. I mean, there's so many different combinations, and when consumers are marketed differently, it's not that effective. And if you go to the next slide, basically Omni channel has its, for those of you that remember Latin from high school, Omni means all things, not just what's happening in your own channel. It's this seamless, targeted messaging that's driving consumer engagement regardless of how, when, where, and how. And I think what's very important is that it requires brands and retailers to understand how consumers and customers are interacting with their store, their brand, throughout almost all the touch points within this customer journey. And what happens if the data and the teams are siloed, brands and retailers can run into problems. You can look at messaging frequency as a particular issue. You can look at a lack of personalization as an issue. So it becomes much more pivotal, much more important in providing that experience, the omni-channel customer experience, which at a certain extent transcends any one medium and simply provides shoppers with what they want when they want it. And you go to the next slide here, just a quick omni versus multi, just so everybody's clear. Omnichannel is talking about consistent, personalized experience for shoppers across all channels, across all devices, regardless of how they're acquiring goods and services. If you compare that back to multi-channel, that's a company or brand selling in one channel, it's just not resonating anymore because of all of the crossover. Now, one of the things that we've done in cooperation with Stagnita Retail Marketing, and I thank you, Harry, for your kind words, we are currently conducting extensive research among the American population, including the Latino market and all other ethnicities and ages and so on, with regard to understanding consumer attitudes, behaviors, and purchase factors and so on when it comes to this notion of omni-channel. So that research is being conducted now, and we'll have results available in the beginning of 2021. So I thank you for this particular part. I think Larissa is going to finish it up with a couple facts that I think you'll find interesting, and I thank you all.
Okay, so can we click next? And one more time. So I do have 10 facts that I can bring to the table. Gus, let me know if I have time to do all 10, or I can do like 2 to 5, whatever you think.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead and do. We got some time. Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. So one interesting fact about omnichannel is that businesses that adopt omnichannel strategies achieve 91% greater year-over-year customer retention rates compared to businesses that don't. Next. Companies with extremely strong omnichannel customer engagement retain on average of 89% of their customers, compared to 33% of companies with weak omnichannel customer engagement. Third stats. Companies with extremely strong omnichannel customer engagement see a 9.5 year-over-year increase in annual revenue, compared to 3.5 for weak omnichannel companies. Next. 77% of strong omnichannel companies store customer data across channels, compared to 48% for weak omnichannel companies. Next. Omnichannel shoppers have a 30% higher lifetime value than those who shop using only one channel. Next. 64% of marketers cite that lack of resources and investments as their top barrier to omnichannel marketing. And next, 55% of companies have no cross-channel strategy in place, which is alarming because that's half of the company, the population. Next. 90% of customers expect consistent interactions across all channels. Next. 87% of customers think brands need to put more effort into provide a seamless experience. And finally, 50% of shoppers expect that they will be able to make a purchase online and pick up in store. So those are the 10 most interesting stats about omnichannel.
Well, thank you so much for your time and presentation, Steve and Larissa. You're valuable. I have some questions here from people that they've been asking some questions. I got one from, what do you think about, this is from Manuel Contreras. What do you think about the intelligent systems for retail stores like Scan and Go? Any one of you?
And in what context? Sorry.
They are talking about the use of intelligent systems in retail stores of any kind. He's given an example of the Scan and Go. We can have the new robotics that they are instrumenting right now, just to give your general opinion about this.
I think when they were first put in stores, people were not that interested because we were still seeking that human interaction with cashiers and store employees. But especially with the pandemic that's going on now, people are more willing to do that and be more self-served in store, so they don't have to have those interactions that before were fundamental on the shopping experience.
Yeah, I think I would agree definitely, and I think it also ties back with the acceleration of technology during these COVID times. So a lot of consumers are saying, "Gosh, I never thought I'd be buying online whatever product it is," and all of a sudden, it's the only way that they're ever going to get that product again. I think the Scan and Go obviously provides the ultimate in terms of convenience. I think a lot of the Scan and Go retail locations, at least the ones from Amazon, for example, it's a lot of fresh foods and so on. It's almost a larger convenience store, and I think it provides consumers again what they're looking for. Price, quality, convenience, all at the same time.
And it helps them because not a lot of people are very comfortable doing everything online. They still want to have that experience of going in store. But with the pandemic, that gives them the both sides of the coin. So you are going in store, but by doing the shoppings yourself, scanning your groceries, not having a third person touching your products or bagging your products, that gives you that notion of safety that you would get by buying your groceries, for example, online and having them delivered to your car or delivered to your home.
That's a great question, and thank you for your great response. Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you so much, Larissa. I'm going to go ahead and get prepared for our next speakers, which is Yvonne Kinzer and Jenny George. So thank you for being here. And I have some more questions that I'm going to be sending you by email because we are running out of time. So we wanted to start making this go fast. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye. I'm going to go ahead at this point I would like, before I'm going to introduce Yvonne Kinzer, I'd like to do a poll, and for everybody, I'm going to do a poll. And please, all you the attendees, feel free to go in and answer. This is going to be a really quick poll. For all the attendees, please look at your screen. As you can see, we're going to have the poll. If you wanted to please answer those, we'll be more than happy to share that information. So, come on, get your hands in there and start clicking. All right, guys, we have 65% of people voted, so thank you so much. I'm going to end the poll right now, and I'm going to share the results for everybody, so you guys can take a look at it. Thank you so much for attending the poll, and please keep in mind, stay later until we're going to do the raffling of the iPad. Now I would like to introduce you Yvonne Kisner. She's the head of digital marketing and e-commerce from Avocados from Mexico. Yvonne, additionally to leading the digital marketing efforts for Avocados from Mexico since 2014, when she created the ground's capabilities, Yvonne leads internally with the CEO of the company's innovative thinking agenda and innovation training for the organization. Through the span of her 20 and plus years marketing career, Yvonne has played leadership roles in multiple corporations and representing multi-billion dollar brands and top advertising agencies such as Lintas, McCann Erickson Worldwide, and the Richard Groups. So here, without further ado, I leave you with Yvonne. So take it away, Yvonne. Thank you.
Hello, hi Gus, and thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here to speak a few minutes about what we're doing in Avocados from Mexico in terms of omni-channel marketing. Before we get into what are we doing specifically for omni-channel marketing, I want to take you really quickly through what is Avocados from Mexico. A lot of people don't understand that, and we say this jokingly, but it's true. We don't sell avocados and we're not from Mexico. We are a marketing organization headquartered in Dallas, Texas, and we are the marketing arm of two organizations, the growers and exporters of avocados from Mexico in Michoacan, Mexico, and the packers and importers and packers and distributors of avocados from Mexico in the US. These two organizations came together in 2013 to create these Avocados from Mexico, the marketing company, because they realized that they have the same goals. And those are basically two. Increase the consumption of avocados from Mexico in the United States and create and build and make stronger the avocados from Mexico brand in the United States. So that was in 2013. So let's fast forward a few years later, to be exactly 3 years later. And because of the innovative approach that was part of our DNA from the beginning, where we took more a CPG approach, and our main goal was to reinvent the way produce marketing was has been doing in the United States. That innovative approach was really breaking through the industry. And in 2017, Adweek published an article, and they call us, and I'm quote, "As it turns out, avocados from Mexico boast one of the most dramatic and impressive raises to prominence in recent marketing industry." Now think about it. That was only 3 years before 3 years after Avocados from Mexico as a marketing organization was created with very few people. 6 years later, right now, we're only 30 people. And in 2020, we were named by Fast Company, one of the Fast Company's top 100 best places for innovators. And I'm telling all this because all this innovation and this approach to disruptive marketing is not necessarily a shiny object, but it really, really disrupt the industry and our business in a very, very efficient and effective way. As a proof of that is that in only 6 years, we have increased the market share from 60% to 80%, and we have broken records in pounds of avocados, Mexican avocados imported to the US, 2.5 billion pounds a year, and 8 pounds per capita. When we look at, now we're going to enter in what are we doing and what is our perspective and our perception of these great changes that are happening in the marketing industry, especially coming from digital marketing and technology. And I'm going to introduce a concept here that is really the north of everything that, not only everything that we're doing in digital marketing now from Mexico, but really is the root of digital transformation, and that is convergence. Why we're bringing that word? Because when we analyze the changes and the behavior that led ultimately to omnichannel, we need to see the root. What are those forces pulling us in that direction? Because understanding that as a marketers will really help us to create experience that really, really connect with our consumers, and at the end are going to translate in those kind of results that we have been seeing. So how we define convergence is multiple, it can be defined in multiple ways, but this is the definition that I adopted, is multiple elements coming together to create new experiences. And it's new experiences that are give of us marketers the opportunity to have a very strong competitive edge. Let's go off topic for one couple of seconds to really visualize what is convergence. Is group of technologies that are coming together in one experience. The best example historically is the iPhone. When the iPhone was created, that was one of the biggest revolution of our generation, especially talking about marketing. Not only all of a sudden we had the photography, music, and a telephone together. But think about it right now. We have our bank, we have our shopping list, we have our grocery store, we have our gym, we have our encyclopedia, and I can keep naming. But if we really, really think about this moment in the history of marketing and marketing technology really define everything else moving forward, including the position that we are right now with omnichannel marketing. Omnichannel marketing, if you see the trend beyond, is consumers now don't have a linear path to purchase. Is omnichannel, and is all blended together. So the omnichannel, really the shopper path to purchase looks more or less like that. And it is the same. I was looking at the previous presentation, the same that Larissa was presenting in a little bit of a different visual, but it's the same. So now specifically how we at Avocado from Mexico are coming and to this new scenario and disrupting to be successful, increasing the performance of our campaigns, and all the way to really defining what is going to be or breakthroughs in terms of market share and imports, and what are the main goals of our organization. So I'm going to give you a few examples of the platforms that we have built to provide our consumers with these omnichannel experiences. But every one of those strategies start with a thinking that is, how can we solve this problem? How can we seize this opportunity, leveraging the tools in our toolbox? And that toolbox, when we're talking about omnichannel, digital is a very, very important piece. That toolbox is what we call MarTech, the marketing ecosystem. And I can tell you why this is so important is because there's absolutely nothing that you can imagine that you can do with in your platforms for your consumers that it cannot be done when you look at the extent of the marketing ecosystem that we have. And in 2 slides, I give you an example. This is the marketing ecosystem for 2011, and it's growing at an exponential rate year over year. There's one for every year, but I'm going to jump all the way to 2019 when we went from this to this. So this is the number of technologies that we have available in the market for us marketers to do absolutely everything that we want to do. And now I go to 4 specific examples. We realized that based on research that one of the main barriers for avocado consumption is the lack of avocado education. Consumers feel intimidated when they go to the grocery store and they want to pick their avocados, but they are not really sure if the avocado is ripe or is not ripe, if it's going to be ready by the time that they need it. So we knew at that moment that we needed to have someone from Avocados from Mexico right there next to the consumer in a Walmart store, taking them by the hand through that shopping experience to pick the avocado. But it's impossible for us to have someone next to the consumers. So what did we do? We went to this ecosystem, how we can leverage technology to multiply avocados from Mexico so we're really next to each shopper when they need answers regarding their purchase of the avocados. And so we did. We created the first chatbot in the produce industry, and we created a character called Selma Avocado, and she will guide the consumers on a personalized level to pick their avocados. And this is an example. What happened with that? That gave us the opened the gates for us to partner with Walmart, and we had the information about the chatbot in Walmart stores. So consumers will text AVO to 4A411 and they will start communicating with Selma Avocado. How can I pick the right avocado? How can I select the avocado? Give me avocado recipes. And then we establish that communication. But what is even more importantly, we're going from the brick and mortar to digital and back and forth seamlessly with one whole activation. We continue this path to building those bridges between brick and mortar and digital and back and forth. For example, we have activations where the shoppers are inside the store. We send them a message and they can pull, for example, a QR code, and that QR code will bring the user ID into our consumer data platform. And we start understanding those behaviors of the shoppers as they happen in the store, so we can serve them better when we target that same shopper again. That gives us a level of intelligence that few brands, at least in our category, have. The bottom line is more personalized experiences and more consumer-centric experiences that at the end we have seen that had increased our performance. If we look at what is going on in the digital space and the e-commerce space, we see that, and this is based on a research that we did, actually we completed a month ago with a group of experts in the e-commerce especially in the CPG category. And we did a very, very profound research, and we found out that 8% of avocados that this year were sold via e-commerce. But more importantly and more interestingly, more than half of grocery sales are digitally influenced, even when the purchase doesn't happen online, but is online. Any point at any journey online is really the trigger for the purchase consideration. So what we did with this is we don't sell avocados directly. Like I mentioned before, we're the marketing arm of over 20,000 growers and exporters and thousands of importers and distributors. So we don't manage sales data, but we invented, and I'm not saying reinvented because it was not even, didn't even existed, but we invented how to be an e-commerce company without selling anything. And the way we did it is we became a bridge. We became a bridge between our platforms and the inspiration stage of the purchase, the path of purchase, and the retailers. So we brought the technology again, we went back to that large marketing technology ecosystem, brought the right technology that will enable our website to become an e-shopper, an e-commerce bridge that takes our consumer from our site to the retailers. So this is our website. When consumers come and they want to purchase an avocado, they buy now. We don't have inventory, we don't sell anything, but we send them to where do you want to purchase these avocados, and they can pick their store, whatever is their preferred store. If they prefer to click and pick instead of deliver, they can add their zip code and they can purchase in the store. Let's say they pick Walmart. They can pick not only Walmart, but if in their zip codes there's 4 Walmarts, they can pick the one that is closest to their home or whatever they are, and they can pick up the products there. So it's the click and pick that is even bigger than e-commerce. Another thing that we did was to work with the retailers to penetrate their e-commerce platforms. The best example is Walmart. Again, we continue to blaze trails in the fresh produce industry, and we became last year the first produce brand in the history of Walmart on having a customized product page on Walmart.com. So what we did is that we built a customized experience within Walmart.com on the avocado page. And we developed a narrative that was responding to the searches that consumers do in their platform, in the Walmart platform, regarding to anything related to avocados. For example, consumers or shoppers search for fresh products or fruit or vegetables or salad toppings or salad burgers. So we developed not only the content and using kind of SEO tactics, we're bringing that traffic to our page that other way wouldn't be coming, and we developed the visuals for a much better experience. The result of that was that we increased into 112% the visibility of the avocado page in only 6 months. So this is everything that we're doing, and this is just the beginning, because the future, and this is coming also from the research that we did recently, we realized last month that, and all this happened in a time where we were already getting ready to take off our e-commerce experience, but then COVID came and it just accelerated everything. But we were already planning it. So we learned that the penetration of e-commerce avocado sales is currently higher than the total food and beverage e-commerce penetration. So we see at my left, the total industry food and beverage penetration is 6.2%, the avocado penetration 7.9%. That was very, very eye-opening. And when we look at the trend, what is going to happen in the industry, we see that the line, the orange line, was the projection that existed before COVID, and the line above that is the reality or the revised projection after COVID accelerated everything that was supposed to happen within the next 10 years. So to close, I want to say this is, I think that we have advanced our e-commerce plan that we plan to do maybe in the next 5 years. We are accelerating that plan and executing it in this year. And this is the time that every company needs to really think in omni-channel, because that journey that used to live in silos is completely non-existent today. So this is the time, and as happens in every industry with every evolution, the ones that lag behind are going to lose a huge competitive advantage. So we have that really in mind, and everything that we're doing right now is thinking a lot in the future.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. It was a great presentation. And if you can stop the sharing, I have some people that would like to ask you some quick questions. I'm going, let me go ahead and put you on the spotlight. Well, first, thank you for joining us. We appreciate and we value, and you got a great view in the back, so we love it. I have a question from Claudia Rodriguez. Yvonne, avocado-derived products such as cooking oil have become popular as a healthy alternative. Does AFM have any plans to lead or partner with an organization the certification and authenticity of the source of such products in order to protect consumers and the equity of AFM branded avocados?
Yeah, so avocados from Mexico, our product is fresh avocados, 100%. We don't have packaged avocados, even though some of the growers or importers, they are involved in those industries, but avocado from Mexico, our brand is the brand of the fresh avocado only.
Okay. I have a question from Alberto Dodoli. Hi, Yvonne. Thanks for sharing this interesting information with us. I'm a big fan and follow avocado from Mexico and its success very closely. By looking at your presentation, would it be accurate to say that the current pandemic crisis can be seen as an opportunity to start looking and putting more efforts to e-commerce?
I have had that question before in different contexts, and I think that the pandemic didn't change anything. I think the only thing the pandemic did was accelerating a curve that was already happening. So my industry is digital marketing, but I don't believe in isolated digital marketing strategies. I think that you see the most advanced players in the industry like Amazon are actually going from digital to brick and mortar, purchasing making big acquisitions for brick and mortar. And that is the right move. I think that it's not that we're going to digital and e-commerce and brick and mortar are going to disappear. I think that omni-channel approach is becoming more important, and the need to join e-commerce, yes, definitely is a must right now, but it didn't start with COVID. COVID was just an accelerator for something that was going to happen within the few years.
I got one more. The rest of them, because of time, I will be sending you by email, just like the rest of the panelists. From Alejandra Herrera. In your experience, if you could define what has been the specific digital marketing strategy that has given avocados from Mexico success in increasing sales and conquering more market? Well, I think you spoke, and I think this question will take a lot of time, but if you can, she's talking about a specific initiative in the digital marketing that AFM has done.
Yeah, to your point, that will take a long conversation, but if I can identify some really quickly, I can tell you, for example, we have we're very disciplined in identifying the goals of our campaigns, and we develop KPIs, key performance indicators accordingly, and we buy media accordingly. For example, Super Bowl is a brand played. We want to raise brand awareness. So it's about reach and frequency. What is the largest amount of people that we can reach with a campaign with the ideal frequency? So we have a Super Bowl TV spot, and we have a digital campaign that deliver over 4 billion impressions. But if we go, for example, to I don't know, supporting shopper initiatives, then we don't go with a TV spot, and we don't go with billions of impressions. We go with specifically initiatives like that will attract users to our shopper page, for example, and that is buying by clicks instead of by impressions. So it's really, really being in tune with what is the result that we expect to have of every specific dollar that we put out there, and make that dollar work for that specific purpose.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you much for your expertise, and we hope we can count on you for our next one. Thank you, and I appreciate it. Now, I'm going to introduce you. If you I'm going to go ahead. If you can, let me take you off your right there. Give me one quick second, and I'm going. You're right.
Thank
Now
you.
I would like, yes. Hey, thank you. If you can go. Right now, I would like to introduce to Jenny George. Jenny is the partner for Gala Food Supermarket. Jenny is a young entrepreneur who, because much of her life was linked to the family business, the Compare Foods chain, supermarket chain, she knows the need of consumers and the community. Jenny grew up in Melbourne. She went to Fordham University in 2005. After graduation, she started working with the family. In 2008, Jenny completed her MBA at Fordham University also, and she was instrumental on the launch of Gala Fresh Farms and Gala Foods Supermarkets. Jenny, who currently serves as one of Gala Foods Supermarket partners, knows the Hispanic trade sector well. Today, she's a determining factor in developing and establishes new retail concepts all along the chain. And I must say that we are very proud to have Jenny here. We can say that she brings the perspective from, we have so many people that we could invite, but we felt like Jenny was one of the ones that can bring the fresh and new perspective from the retail side. So thank you very much, Jenny, and I'm going to give you the spotlight right here so you can start with your presentation. Go ahead, Anthony.
Thank you, Gus. Thank you for that great introduction. More importantly, I feel than any title that you can have, any diploma that you can have, it's really the authentic, the real everyday experience that you get in your retail business. In our case, it's a supermarket, but in the food industry, it's really more about your everyday experiences, how you interact, how you motivate your employees to get your goals accomplished, so that they feel accomplished as well. How do you collaborate with your vendors to be able to serve your community the best you can? And how do you really enhance the consumer experience, which is really where your marketing and your advertising comes into play. So I think in today's environment, it would be very naive to think that the only way that you bring your consumer through the door is in your physical brick and mortar store. I think nowadays you really have to look at your consumer as somebody who has options, who has choices, and who you really want to hit on every type of channel that you possibly can. So for us, that meant entering the e-commerce environment as well, and realizing that when you're directing yourself to the consumer, you need to be able to address them as somebody who enters your brick and mortar sometimes, and somebody who enters your e-commerce platform at other times. So you look at this, well, the way that we look at it is, if you chose to come into our store today, you should have the same experience that you have when you enter our e-commerce site. One of the ways that we've decided to do that is when we talk about our inventory, a lot of retailers will limit what they present on their e-commerce site. One of our things is if you can find a very specific item that you're looking for in our brick and mortar store, we want you to know that we can deliver it to you. Since we deliver specifically from the stores that are located in your neighborhood, we don't have a separate warehouse to deliver from. We are able to do that. We are able to service somebody with what they would look for on a daily basis in their brick and mortar, also bring it to them in their online experience. For any consumer, not just a Hispanic consumer, you have to realize what their needs are. You have to realize what it is that they're looking for at that moment. When we talk about how change has come about with COVID, right? At the end of the day, the number one reason that people choose a supermarket is because of convenience, right? And I think that only changed a little bit now with COVID because of people's fears, because of people's desire to stay safe, and the general environment of their health. So when you're looking at these, when you're looking at how you can offer convenience to your consumer, you're really looking at your location, but now looking at it as your physical brick and mortar location and also your online location. Is your website easy to access? Is it easy to use? What is your product mix, so much in store as well as on your website, as I was just mentioning? And what are your options, to pay? How are you paying? Are you paying with a cashier? But now, do you not want to interact like somebody mentioned before? And now we're looking at self-checkouts. Or are you ordering online, having your things delivered through contactless delivery and checking out through a simple to use platform on your online shop, on your e-commerce website? Another thing that we have found that we need to incorporate, or that the supermarkets nowadays need to incorporate based on the needs that consumers have, is how do we make things more convenient by offering more services? Like I mentioned, offering the delivery services, offering the contactless delivery, offering one-stop shopping, where you can get pretty much everything you need in one stop, and possible services. The Hispanic community does, what we have found is the Hispanic community looks for, how can I send money back to my country? How can I do as many things as possible in one stop? So we look at how can we integrate, there's a lot of companies that are now integrating money transferring with your website. So in store, we can offer different versions of transferring funds back to your home countries for the Hispanic market. Now, our challenge is how can we integrate those services so we are still your one-stop shop as you do in person now through our online presence. I think the experience that a customer receives on an everyday basis when they choose your business is really important, and that's something that we've looked into and that we've really tried to make sure that we provide the same experience. Whatever advertising, whatever marketing, whatever needs we've established that the community has, we want to let them know that we can cover them across all platforms. Whether it's that the same campaign that we put out for advertising on social media is the same campaign that we also put in store. What is a customer looking for? Well, a customer is looking for, how can I use those avocados from Mexico? So maybe we're looking to put a recipe on our website, but you can also see the recipe next to the product in store if you're coming into the store. But when you click on our website, you're also going to be able to see that next to that same product. So the virtual experience versus the in-person experience in the store. Definitely teaching your consumer how to do things that they're looking to do, how to use a recipe, or what product can be useful for something. So something that we've done at Gala Foods is, besides adding the recipes to our websites and trying to have them in store as well in our promotional material, we've also added things like health benefits of certain things through our Gala Tips. So we'll do Gala Tips on our social media, but if you come into the store, you're getting those same tips on our screens in store. It's a way of kind of, no matter where you go, you're receiving the same experience of shopping in Gala Foods or Gala Fresh. So something else that we've put into play that we have felt has been, it's kind of an older, not an older, but it's kind of like a more traditional way of making your customers feel that loyalty towards your business is a loyalty point system. So that system is something that we as a small business chain is still looking to figure out how to integrate, because we found other ways that we've been able to integrate other things. But our loyalty program is something that we're working on. How do we integrate that now so that regardless of whether you're online or you're shopping through our self-checkouts or you're shopping through our registers, you're able to integrate all this into one easy, seamless system that can give you your loyalty points, your coupons, all these other things. There's a lot of different not smaller, but there's a lot of different companies that can offer you this, but how do you integrate this all into one technological solution to be able to bring this to your customers in a cohesive manner? That's something that we're working on currently, because we do have these programs in store, but how do we bring this now to the e-commerce site to be able to develop that a lot more? I know that Larissa mentioned earlier one of the challenges of developing this omni-channel marketing. And I really think that she hit the nail on the head when she mentioned how the resources are sometimes limited for businesses to be able to develop this. This is still not something that is cheap to do. This is not something that's economical to do for a small business. If you're a chain like Walmart, or if you're a chain like, if you're something like Amazon, you're really going to have a lot of money to put into backing this. I think one of the challenges that we face as smaller business models is the fact that we need to figure out creative ways of partnering up with other supermarkets or other local markets, or finding ways to really make this accessible to us, because it's not necessarily an easy, it's not a small investment for our businesses. So when we make a decision on how we're going to move forward, that's really a big factor that comes into play. And Larissa mentioned that, and I think she was very much on point with that. What we have seen with COVID, in our stores has been kind of more of like an uphill. I know Yvonne was talking about what the expectations were and how the curve has changed faster. Not differently than what was expected, just faster than was expected because of COVID. For us, I think that as the panic went into effect back in February and March, we saw a very heavy rise in traffic in our stores, on our e-commerce sites, which really was able to help us get the news out, get the word out to people. A lot of word of mouth, a lot of social media, a lot of that type of advertising, not so much the traditional advertising, but more of the social media and a lot of word of mouth as to these services being offered. What we saw was a very fast rise in e-commerce, and then also a very fast slowing down of it again in our local markets. I think that's an interesting thing because everybody expected it to stay up there throughout COVID. And it did at the beginning, but around September, everything started evening back out, and our consumers started going more into the stores. I think they felt a little more comfortable going into the stores, seeing safety measures, seeing some of what Ken mentioned earlier in the seminar, in the webinar, of people wearing their masks, of people being more respectful to social distancing. I think people started feeling a lot more comfortable walking into the brick and mortars and being able to choose their products in line, in their in-store, as opposed to online as much. It was still a rise in online. It is still a heavier rise online and a much faster growth in the grocery market than I think was expected. But we did see that start to plateau a little bit and drop off a little bit once people got a little bit more comfortable with what with COVID and that everybody was social distancing and putting masks on. For the Hispanic market, like I mentioned, I think a big thing is the investment in the smaller chains that really understand the Hispanic market and work directly towards the Hispanic market. there is also, I think at the end of the day, a need to really be authentic in the way that you cater to your market, the way that you understand your consumer, and the way that you approach them. So I think that there can't be a fear to try something new. There can't be a fear to experiment, but it has to be an educated risk and an educated testing mechanism to be able to get to where you want to get to.
Well, that's in fact, you touch on some points that are key and relevant to this webinar, because that's in fact what Abasto and Estaniro Retail Media are doing. We are looking also and helping the smaller stores, the board through, through this omni-channel, and to try to help them with these omni-channel, Hispanic omni-channel strategies. So you hit right in the nail, because that's the whole idea behind this partnership between Abasto and Estaniro Retail Media, to help those smaller stores, being able to do the things, the people who have 6, 10, 11, whatever it might be. So I think it's great. And thank you so much, Jenny. Do you have something else? Because I have several questions for you.
No, I can definitely take some questions.
I have a question from Rosa Aguirre. How do you promote your weekly specials to the demographic over 50 years old?
Well, I think that one of the things that we've always traditionally done, and we still implement, not as heavily as we used to, but we do still send out the traditional flyers that go direct mail to every household. So that is a method that's still being used in our businesses. It is very general. It's not directed only to a certain age group, but definitely a way of getting to the older market that maybe is not as computer savvy. Another thing is that even the 50-year-olds are on social media. They might not be on Instagram, but they're on Facebook. So you start directing your digital campaign, your social media campaigns to the demographics that you see in your store to try to grow that. So, we are going to direct all of our digital campaigns on Facebook, let's say, or on one of those other partners. We're going to direct that campaign towards anybody of that age.
Okay. I have a question here from Joseph Farber. He was asking, I think you pretty much answered this, but how do bodegas get the advantage the larger chains have to serve over customers? I'm trying to read. We know that a large segment of the Hispanic market shops in bodegas, and they don't have access to coupons or other special that drive the business to the larger supermarket chains. But that's not the case in many of your supermarkets. So, I mean, I don't know. Can you?
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, a bodega is going to be your local corner store, really. Right. For anybody who doesn't understand the concept of a bodega.
Right.
The bodega concept is very common in the tri-state area. It's very common in the Northeast. The bodega is more your corner store. Gala Foods, my family actually started back in the 70s with bodegas and grew into supermarkets. So that experience, my parents would have that experience of the bodegas. I have more of the supermarket experience. And for us, it's really a very different situation, especially in the tri-state area where independent supermarkets are so strong. You don't have the Walmart being a supermarket in New York. You have your local Gala Foods, Gala Fresh, Associateds, Key Foods. And those, what we do to be able to get the advantage of the coupons, of the manufacturing benefits, the manufacturer's benefits, and the more competitive pricing, is we group together in cooperatives, or we group together in buying groups. And then we approach someone like a CNS or someone like a Super Value or UNFI, I'm sorry, and approach them as a group, as a conglomerate of 300 supermarkets, all independently owned, but coming together as a group to be able to purchase at group chain pricing.
Or you can approach La Tortilleria Inc., which is their company. So
exactly.
Jenny,
we move a lot of our tortillas, definitely.
Well, Jenny, I got a final question from Julio Ibanez. Jenny, as a retailer from the traditional supermarket, if I'm introducing for the first time omni-channel strategies, what do my customers now expect from me? It's a very big question. So
Yes, I think that that what your customers expect from you when you're introducing omni-channel marketing is really cohesiveness. I really think that that's really what it is. I think that you need to present a unified experience for your customer so that they know what your goal is, what the purpose of your business is, what the purpose of your supermarket is, whether you're a general store, whether you're an ethnic store, whether you're a Hispanic market, whatever it is, you need to make that clear to them across all of your channels, whether it's using landing pages off of social media, using QR codes to transfer information, or just creating a very cohesive experience within your e-commerce and your brick and mortar stores. I think that's really what your customer expects, to not be confused by the message that you're putting out there for them.
And finally, I got one that is really, I don't want it, I want to skip this question because it's right along the holidays. Jenny, what are you projecting for this upcoming holiday in sales versus last year? And how do you think COVID affected your planning and ordering? Which you already touched on that, but go ahead.
Yes, I think that's a difficult question because for us, it is a very difficult question because for us, we expected the holidays to be a lot less, big purchases for big get-togethers and a lot more smaller per household purchases. That's really what we were expecting. Whether we can talk about numbers of projections, I can't give you specific numbers of what the projections would be. I wouldn't know them off the top of my head, but definitely that's a tough question because every market is very different and every market has been affected very differently. And the fear factor in different parts of the country, I think, is very different. So for example, here in the tri-state now, we're getting a lot more state mandates. We're getting, Cuomo just announced last week how you can't have gatherings of more than 10 people. So whatever we had planned before last week goes out the window.
It's gone.
It's all gone because it really is a test to how quickly you can adapt to things. And that's really what we're learning the most with this pandemic, that you have to adapt, you have to change with it. And whatever projections you had, they're really not going to be helpful because you don't know what's coming around the corner.
And I think that us as Hispanics, we know how to adapt. So that's a good thing for the Hispanic leadership all across the supermarket chains. So
correct.
Well, thank you so much, Jenny. And I want to leave Jenny and Larissa and Yvonne and our next speaker, Anita Grace, with something really interesting from Gabriela Perez. Just want to congratulate to all the female panelists. It's great to see how women are taking more and more important positions. Thank you, Gabriela. And thank you, Jenny. And I think you guys needed to hear that because it's really important. And we are so proud and to count you as a friend. So thank you so much, Jenny.
Thank you, guys.
Right now, I'm going to introduce Anita Grace and Harry Stagnito. You guys heard from Harry, and Harry is the senior president of Stagnito Retail Marketing, and Anita Grace, Hispanic Marketing and Media Specialist. Anita is the president and CEO of Grace Multicultural, a woman and minority-owned company. She's an experienced multicultural marketing and communication specialist working with the country's most influential Spanish language print and digital media organizations. Her infectious energy and positivity mixed with long-standing relationships, knowledge of the independently and corporate-owned multicultural media outlets, along with her respected reputation in the world of multicultural print and online, made her one of the top independent Hispanic marketing strategies in the country. So here is, we already introduced Harry. So here is Harry and Anita. So I'm going to put you both on the spotlight and please take it over.
Yes, thank you, Gus. Pleasure to be here. It's always great to work with Abasto. Audience, thanks for bearing with us. So we've heard from Ken Langone, why Hispanic? Why did someone of his stature decide to invest in Hispanic? I mean, it's on the rise. We're the largest minority group. And so I think why Hispanic is very clear. Then we heard about what is omnichannel marketing. So we know now that instead of having independent verticals, that you need to hit everything at once. You need to have multi-platform proposals, whether it's a product proposing to a grocery store, whether it's a grocery store putting together their marketing strategy, and whether it's, the marketing and advertising, people going into the grocery store, you need to hit all the spokes to the wheel. So how do you do that? How do you have omni-channel marketing? Harry Stagnito is here to share with us and all of his wisdom. Anthony, if you could go ahead and put his presentation up on the screen, and then I'll kind of be here to help dissect the information for the rest of us and try to ask questions. And so remember to put your questions in the chat. Harry, welcome. Teach us your wisdom.
Thank you. Let me say, first and foremost, it's been extremely interesting here seeing the different perspectives of the Hispanic multicultural marketing approach with omnichannel. Over my years of experience, I've been fascinated to find how resilient the retail marketplace is. You've got so many different iterations of different kinds of inventions. And with this pandemic, all it's done is centered into some of the areas that had been developed prior to the pandemic. And now we're starting to come into a new phase of, is this going to be emerging trends in the area of omnichannel, or is it going to be fads? And 3 or 4 of the examples that I think about when I look at that big picture, and then we'll go into some specifics in terms of the how and why to develop omnichannel. They go into such areas as back in the early 2000s, we were talking about collaboration, if you remember. I'm not even going to use the words of what you had to pay to get on the shelf because it was illegal. But at the same time, we had collaboration that was just starting. It would never really finish the premise and the goals, but it improved. That was between, of course, everybody in the supply chain, but primarily between CPGs and retailers. And then somewhere around 2015, we found ourselves in the area of 2 or 3 other very smart, bright areas of growth opportunities. One was in the food service or retail. In the Chicagoland where I live, of course, Mariano's, Wegmans on the East Coast did a terrific job in tying together food service or retail. That has sort of leveled off. But in the Hispanic community, I would think there's a tremendous opportunity. It's already being done, but a tremendous opportunity for a real authentic, and that's the words that Jen used. Authentic is really critical when it comes to multicultural or any kind of ethnic type food. And so that's the goal of food service or retail. And then we had e-commerce, digital shopping, which started off about 4 or 5 years ago, and we're in full blast. And then the last one we had was retail dietitians. Remember that one? The health and wellness stage, where some of these major retailers were bringing in certified dietitians, et cetera, into pharmacies. Well, the point of the summary of this segment is that they all came and they all are still there, but they never really went over the top and living up to expectations. So next slide, please. Very briefly, the goal of this conversation, I have approximately 9 or 10 slides, which would take about 2 hours to get through. I promise you at the end of this particular segment, we're not going to do that. But as a lead behind, you will be able to go into some detail in some of these points. I'm going to highlight several of the points, but my goal in the next 15 to 20 minutes is going to be, you've listened now to basically the what's going on in the Hispanic community and when it comes to specifically omnichannel marketing. The world, and this is much tighter, much stronger, much better than what the world on a daily basis tries to convey to the industry generally, Hispanic specifically. And that is too much information, conflicting information, contradictory information, which one do I believe, how does it work, etc. Secondarily, most information is essentially at this point in time. It's at the present. It's good. I mean, there are tremendous amounts of data. Analytics are terrific. in terms of insights, all these words that we've been using and working with. Abasto is different in that respect. First of all, I believe in verticalization of a marketplace, which again, my entire career has been about. At one time, I had 11 publications, each one serving confection, dairy, deli, bakery, meat, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because that's how retailers historically have functioned, getting products on shelves. And the aisles are full of category management. This new blend, in terms of omnichannel, sort of turns that around a little bit, because now instead of having to go into a store totally, and this is not a negative because people will be going back to stores, but now they have the opportunity to basically choose what they want to choose when they want to choose it. So let me just say at this point, what Stagnito Retail Marketing is, you can see it on the screen, consulting, marketing, and technology services firm. We tied together the three: consulting, marketing, and technology services. We do this with our own ownership, as well as, again, this idea that we're having with Abasto, with NMI, which are collaborative partnerships. And then the last part of that is, this is what we do. This is what we're going to talk about. We provide innovative, progressive, and predictive turnkey programs, product solutions. Going back to what we just heard, one of the issues is small CPG companies, suppliers, and retailers don't have the financial wherewithal or capabilities of being able to start from where and how do I get into this, and the cost is going to be exorbitant. That's why we have turnkey programs depending upon your specific goals, objectives, challenges, and opportunities. As a result of that, we are efficient in areas of speed to market in this new food world. Next slide, please. I'm not going to go in detail with these points because, again, you'll have the opportunity to analyze them. But the keys to them, the most important elements on them, I would highlight and say, in order, the first one is new business models. We're talking about right now with Omnichannel. We're talking about new business models in terms of what's going on with Amazon, with no one at checkout. We're talking about all the areas that we've discussed today. The second most important element on that is the one at the bottom: better use of data and technology. The world is now functioning from technology, data, insights, analytics, etc. The problem with that, again, as I said a couple minutes ago, there's almost too much of it. There are too many companies putting it out there. The data is not always accurate. And if I do have this data and this technology to be able to work with smaller retailers, for example, the trouble I have is that the retailers don't necessarily have the technology skills and capabilities of being able to support that information. The third one, and then we'll stop, e-commerce. Of course, the numbers are out there, the 340% increase this year from the pandemic primarily, but it was growing rapidly before that in the area of e-commerce. Two other quick ones, which is extremely valuable to understand. This is how the business models are changing. The next one is there will be fewer stores, absolutely fewer stores in the future, based upon the fact that e-commerce and omnichannel marketing is going to reduce the amount of stores necessary. Secondly, those stores will be smaller than they've been previously. And third, they're going to reduce the SKUs or products that are being served in those stores. Absolutely will occur. It's already starting right now. And what that means, and this is major for anybody out there who is part of a major CPG company, you're already aware there's going to be continued delisting of products. So if you have a legacy of 13 different brands on a shelf that's 6 feet wide, it's already occurring. Those 13 brands are come down to maybe 9. Does it mean it opens up opportunities for new brands? It does. For example, new products, which I have followed for 50 years, published a magazine called New Product News, have tried my best to increase the success rate from 25% up instead of having a 75% failure rate for the last 50 years of new products. And so it's going to be a matter of how is that going to flow through the buyers in these channels in terms of merchandising and category managers. And the last one on this whole area is how are you going to get the shoppers who are going into the stores to buy new and different products instead of the ones that they buy 75% of the time. One of the areas that's going to change that dramatically is store brands, as you know, private brands, if that's what you want to call them. That's going to make a major impact. Next slide.
Well, Harry, if I could just touch on that. So it seems
Please.
like what you're saying to me, just looking at those points that you had on there, where before it was, you know, just your traditional advertising, a few things coming at the decision maker or in general, and then a lot of products in the stores or a lot of options once you get there. But what we're saying now is almost the reverse, where you have to come at the decision maker in many different ways, have all the spokes to the wheel, and then once they get there to have fewer decisions for them to make. It's kind of like we've flipped the model on its head. It's the people can only handle so much input. So if the input is increased on one end, it has a decrease on the other end. Is what we're finding is working.
Perfectly stated. It is on its end because historically, supply chain from farm to distribution to CPG to retailer to shopper over the last year or two, and now specifically with omnichannel marketing, it's the consumer who is really making those decisions more than ever before and changing the entire flow from product to retailer to shopper. This particular omnichannel business model, I'm not going to spend any real time on it because we don't have the time, but I wanted to give you the opportunity when you get a copy or when you're analyzing this to take a look at some of the key elements specific to Hispanic retailers. And these are areas that you are aware of, but what this does is solidify some of the specifics in terms of, you know, what's happening with the smaller retailers, what's happening with the bigger chain retailers. I went to a retail store, which I go to regularly the other day here in Chicagoland, it's part of Albertsons Jewel. They have 1,200 stores. I talked to the store manager I've known for a long time, and I said, how is the Hispanic foods environment in your store? Knowing the answer, he said, it's not very much. And I said, well, you live in a pocket where there's a major Hispanic community, you know, within walking distance. And I said, have you ever really thought about promoting it and marketing it? And, you know, I've known this person a long time. And he said, no. And so that's just one example of opportunities that are sitting out there everywhere. Again, I won't go through the rest of these, but you'll be, if you have any questions, we'll certainly talk about it offline or, you know, in the future with Abasto. But these are not areas that you're not unfamiliar with, but they're critical areas for the future of the industry. Next slide. So when you get into the actual specifics of the strategy and tactics, the previous speaker talked about brand loyalty. As you know, in the Hispanic community, that's stronger than most other communities. As far as the actual size of the marketplace, which NMI can break out in extraordinary detail. I was doing my research on this the other day, and I was surprised to find that in 27 states in the United States, Mexican foods was the #1 ethnic food of choice. 27 states. So although we constantly think about those pockets in the Southwest, in Southeast, major metropolitan areas in Chicago and New York, et cetera, it's much broader than we give it credit for. And these are some of the factors that are going to be impacting how you go to market with omnichannel approaches. Next slide. So what I really want to spend the remainder of time on, we'll do this fairly quickly. Just checking here my time. Yeah, okay. Is these 4 areas of essentially predictive intelligence for emerging trends, bridging the action gap, cross-functional personalized messaging, and the Hispanic shopper-centric integrated marketing program that Abasto Stagnito is able to produce. Next slide. So again, since most information is in the current, this is what's going on, we have specialized and are specializing in the why and how to convert predictive intelligence into emerging trends. And that's what we'll be able to accomplish when we put together specific programs for specific needs. And you'll see here, without going in detail, because you will analyze it, it's a process. It goes from actually taking those emerging trends. We have I'm going to use the term, a division. It's exclusive to me for the last 18 years of a software database company that's exclusive to the food industry. And he has terrific tools and capabilities that goes everywhere from geospatial mapping into detail in terms of demographics, psychographics, et cetera, in terms of shoppers. And then it goes all the way back in terms of what are the technology areas that are necessary today for any supplier to the industry as well as retailer. And how do we get those developed and turned around? So what the objective is now is how and what can and why can we work with you to be able to sustain revenue. Next. This is something over the years which I experienced with hundreds, maybe thousands of companies. We'd sit down with strategic planning, small, medium, large, it didn't matter. Everybody has a strategic approach until it's not working. And when it's not working, people then either change in midstream, try to develop a new one, or continue on the strategic plan they had, which generally ends up failing. And so what I'm establishing here is from predictive intelligence of understanding emerging trends, and then putting that program out in terms of activation, which means execution of those plans. Historically, somewhere during that process, it gets stalled because the product isn't selling effectively. The marketing program needs tweaking. We've had changes in terms of our distribution, whatever. And what happens is it stops the process, and I'm calling it the action gap. And so what we would like to be able to accomplish through our tools, products, and delivery capabilities and information and content is bridge that action gap to be able to take those emerging trends into a program that is comprehensive, all tied together to be able to execute the original growth solution. Next slide.
Okay, can I just jump in here? So you're saying basically then, if you have an original plan and the atmosphere changes, such as COVID or the pandemic, and now all of a sudden you're not sure how you're going to get to your goal, or if that's going to happen or not, if you need to change or pivot your plan, that's the kind of thing that Stagnito does with Abasto, is help you create a new plan based on the predictive intelligence and all the data that we have from brands, from retailers across the nation, to help you get back on track to with a new plan to meet your original goal in a timely way. Do I understand that right?
It's absolutely good. You're going to have to be my interpreter in the future. Very well
I
done.
mean, you have so much information, and so just for the rest of us that don't have all the years in the industry, I just want to make sure that that we're understanding it correctly.
No, very well done. So this is now the next 2 or 3 slides tell you exactly why and how to do that.
Okay.
Over the years, most companies, larger companies, I'm saying larger companies, anything I'm going to use as a larger company would be anything with $50 million a year or more in revenue, and then you start getting into tiers, $150 billion to $1 billion above. But historically, most companies, and this is in the food industry, but even outside, are centrally developed in terms of organizational capabilities. By that, I mean, historically, you had a marketing department, and then you have a sales department, and you have now an information department, and you have a financial department, and you have a category management department, and you've got a sourcing department. You have 7 or 8 different functional groups inside of a business, and they were centralized. And the term which I don't like to use because it's not a positive is that many companies settle into silos, where the integrated businesses, integrated information on a daily basis was sometimes lost through translation. And so we're talking about now are cross-functional teams. This started many years ago with R&D in the ingredients community when people were developing new products. They had to get involved with marketing. They had to get involved with sales. They had to get involved with the outside world. They couldn't just be inside and develop a new product and expect it to succeed. So as a result of that, this the ultimate collaboration model means that whatever you do from your informative marketing program, you have to be able to speak the different languages of these different organizational structured functions. It's very fundamental. And so you have to be able to reach, and you can see this chart from a supply chain, of course. Historically, retailers bigger made their monies not on selling products out of the stores. They really made their money from efficiencies and cost containment in the supply chain. And so now things have changed. And so these different areas are what the cross-functional team consists of. Next slide. So how do you reach these people in terms of their own language? This is something which I saw 6 years ago called personalized messaging, emotional personalized messaging. It's a focus on how do you have the internet, how do you have digital capabilities to be able to personalize that message to these various cross-functional management groups, and how do you reach it with their specific language? 2 points I would like to make very, very strongly. The only reason for marketing, folks, the only reason for marketing is to increase revenue. If it doesn't increase revenue, it doesn't work. And one of the issues over the years, major issues has been, is that marketing was determined to be a failure or successful if revenue generation increased based upon the marketing program. Now, the problem with that historically has been that sales in many companies, big or small, medium, didn't especially agree with the marketing approach, especially to the companies they had relationships with in sales or the people they knew, et cetera. And the last thing I'll make on the comment on this is, historically, understand most companies are strategic in concept and in intention, but they're transactional in terms of how they function, which means simply, I've got this great strategy. It's going to work out for a year. It's not working. I now go into a transactional mode because salespeople forever, and I've worked with probably 500 of them, majority of them, I'm talking about 80% of them, want to have a quick sale. And I want to get a commission. And for the distributors on the call here, we would love to work with you because we have had years of experience working with distributors to convey that message from a CPG who don't necessarily are contacting decision makers every day, but you are, how to tie this all together. So personalized messaging, I want to again go through these because we have 60 different pain points, 60 different areas of what the industry considers to be critical opportunities or challenges. And we've got 40 products, 40, that we can develop for a specific program. Next slide. So rather than go into this, what this basically says is what that program is. It's a process. I just want to get a note on this. What it means basically is you're going from a procedure where you're talking about what the goal is. You then go in talking about what the process is. You then talk about who's going to be functioning, what's going to occur in that. Then you have the actual messaging, personalized, we just talked about. And then you develop the products to be able to accomplish the strategic, bridge the action gap if it doesn't work, and most critically, through the technology, through the research, to be able to measure an ROI on your program. So next slide. That's the last slide. You'll be happy to hear. And for more information, of course, because how else could we do this without a closing comment? If you'd like more specific information from Abasto or Stagnito Retail Marketing, Benita, myself, and our team would be more than happy to get involved in very deep conversations with you, totally about your goals, your objectives to increase immediate revenue and to be able to measure those programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. So just to kind of summarize what we went over today and how Sagnito Retail Marketing and Abasto's partnership can help you. I mean, if you're on the retailer side, you heard it from Avocados from Mexico, you heard it from Gala Foods. You need to have all those multiple touch points, bringing in your e-commerce, bringing in the shopper experience, bringing in your marketing and advertising. There's a lot of different things to consider, and we can help you with all of that. Sagnito has so many years of experience in these things that they're here to help, and Abasto has the platform to speak to the people you're looking to reach. If you're a distributor and you're trying to reach the grocery stores, or if you're a product and you're trying to reach the retailers, Abasto and Sagnito can help you do all of that. So please reach out to us for help. You do what you're good at, which is running the grocery stores and providing the products and getting the product to and from. Let Abasto and Sagnito help you with what we're good at, which is putting together these multi-pronged marketing strategies and outreach so that you can speak to several different buckets of revenue instead of just one bucket of revenue. When you solve the problems of multiple departments or multiple pains at once, you'll have a higher chance for success.
Well, thank you very much, Anita. Thank you, Harry, and an excellent presentation. Outstanding as always. We value that information. And Anita, yeah, you can stay, Anita, and online. I wanted to thank you also. And here we have Dan Cahoon. If I know somebody that can stop you, Harry, now I know it has to be Anita. So
I've been married enough years to know I got another boss.
Oh, you okay? Well, thank you so much. I do have a couple of questions, and I wanted, because we have so many questions, and I do feel like I just don't want to leave all these people hanging out there. So, could Harry? This is from Terry Beltran in the West Coast. Could Harry expand on why the retailer was not marketing his store to the local Hispanic market? Interesting in knowing the response. Thank you.
I'm sorry, just the last part of that again, Gus. What was the last part of that?
Could Harry expand on why the traditional retailer was not marketing his store to the local Hispanic consumers?
Okay, again, two reasons for that. The Hispanic, this is historic, okay? The Hispanic manufacturer has not really put together a point of difference capability of getting their products on the shelves. By that, I mean this. They don't have the promotions programs because they don't have necessarily the financing. They have difficulty getting into the category managers who are looking for mass production, mass items that fit what they think their demographics of the marketplaces. And then this is the key. You have three different parts of a triangle. The first one is sourcing. How do I get through this particular purchasing agent when he's looking to depress price? The second one is when I have category managers, how do I get to them? That's where we come in, because you need to reach many times more than one category manager. And if you do get to him, what are you going to tell him, which is your point of difference, et cetera? It's not just about product. This is really a key point for everybody. It's about concepts and ideas, which was laid out very well with Avocados and also with Jenny a few minutes ago. Points of difference, which are critical. And then finally, if you get through those two areas, incidentally, sourcing gets paid to keep prices reduced. Category managers get paid to make sure that the product is being sold. And then it goes to essentially executives who make final decisions. And that's very difficult to get through to if you don't get through the two first boundaries. That's again why you have to have personalized messaging to each of these groups. And as a result of that, you just don't get the bigger stores bringing in the Hispanic products.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I got another one here. This is from Luciano Escobedo. CPG brand manufacturers have been increasing e-commerce and direct selling to consumers. What risk and opportunities for the supermarkets for the online and offline initiatives?
It's not a matter of risk, it's a matter of necessity.
Okay.
Before the pandemic, and everything's going to be measured in the next 3 to 4 years before the pandemic, after the pandemic. the growth of the whole area of e-commerce was growing because of Amazon and because of Whole Foods and others. Now it's a way of life. The key to the retailers and the CPGs are going to be in the future. What am I going to be doing? And I hate this term customer experience. I've never understood it because historically you go into a retailer, a bigger retailer, in one corner you've got the deli and the bakery, in the other corner you've got the produce, in the other corner you got the men's room. I mean, for 50 years, you haven't found a customer experience that really is meaningful. Now we can develop that and have to develop that because you need to be able to bring in the shopper marketing approach. And there are a lot of ways to accomplish that. And again, we're tied into Category Management Association. I've got somebody who's not online, who is a category specialist in in-store marketing. And he's the kind of a guy who could talk to you, anybody online, about how to be able to increase from your e-commerce, from everything we're talking about in terms of the area of this whole product of omnichannel marketing. Again, you have to take it one at a time. You can't just generalize for a marketplace.
And this is what Stagnito Retail Marketing and Abasto can help these CPG companies all along. So
Yes.
that's a great message. Well, thank you so much, Harry. I'm going to proceed, everyone, all the attendees. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, all the panelists.